What is going on, Gus RV? Shout out to Tamisha for your idea on talking about stress. I'm going to briefly go over stress, say what it looks like, how do you recognize it, and what to do about it. So my hope is that you take away something from this. A lot of this is very common sense, but hopefully you learn something new. So first off, what is stress? You have two types of stress: eustress, distress. So eustress is that good type of stress. We need this in everyday life. It keeps life fun and exciting. This motivates us to get things done, accomplish goals, accomplish tasks. If I wasn't stressed about things like turning in a paper or meeting deadlines, I wouldn't be motivated to do the things. So those things are considered eustress. We need those. The other type of stress is distress. So this is the type of stress that we all experience, but it can have a negative impact on our health. And when we're in periods of distress for long periods of time, it has an impact on our emotional health, our physical health, our psychological health, all the things. A lot of times people describe distress as this feeling of always being on edge, and it's going to interfere with your ability to cope with daily life. So how do I recognize when I'm in seasons where I'm feeling really stressed and I'm experiencing the symptoms of distress? What that looks like is physical symptoms of it can look like increased appetite or decreased appetite. You're going to have a heaviness in your chest, difficulty sleeping, muscle tightness. People complain of high blood pressure or your body temperature changing. So what's happening with your physical body is your brain senses a threat and it says, oh gosh, we're dying. So our amygdala responds to say, keep us alive. We either need to fight or flight. And your body doesn't know the difference between something bad actually happening or just thinking about something bad that's happening. So there's a lot of times the physical symptoms of stress you'll notice first. The second thing is emotional, has an impact on your emotional well-being. So you're going to be more irritated, or your fuse is going to be shorter. Things that normally didn't bother you are going to bother you on these days. You're going to be more sad, or you may just have like overall like low self-esteem. You're not feeling great about yourself. Like everything kind of just has this cloud over it. The last thing is psychological well-being. So this looks like difficulty focusing, difficulty completing tasks or finishing tasks or getting started on tasks because your brain is just really occupied. You're having racing thoughts. You're just overwhelmed. You have this like overall sense of feeling overwhelmed, and it's making it really hard to go through your daily life normally, like you normally would. So that's how you recognize it. The last thing is, what do you do about it? So we're going to talk about a couple of things that can help you manage stress without it getting worse. Because you can't really control when stressful things come into your world, but you can control how you respond to it, and how you respond will either make it better or worse. So the first thing is self-care. I'm a big advocate of self-care. Doing something for yourself every day that you enjoy, that brings you happiness. So it can be something as simple as a favorite show, talking to a friend, going out to dinner, going on a walk, but something that you do and you devote time to every day that's only for the purposes of bringing you joy. The next thing is sleep. Prioritize sleep. When you're in a stressful season, your sleep is probably going to be impacted. So if you're in the habit of getting a good night's rest every night, you're going to be way less impacted when stressful things happen. So research shows you need about 7 to 9-ish hours of sleep every night. That gives your body time to heal itself and process all the things from the day. So sleep is important. Next thing is nutrition and exercise. So 20 minutes of movement a day. It doesn't have to be the gym, but something that gets your heart rate up. It can be dancing in the kitchen. It can be playing with your kids, going for a walk, but something that gets your heart rate up every day for about 20 minutes. Nutrition is just fueling your body with nutrition that it needs. It's not going on diets or like only eating fruits and vegetables. It's just, eating, having balanced eating and knowing what works for your body and knowing what doesn't, and avoiding those things that don't work well with your body. So nutrition is important. Social support, huge, especially when you're stressed out. Having somebody that you can talk to about how you're feeling, what you're going through, just a place to put your feelings, and having somebody to listen can be really important. It can be a spouse, a friend, a family member, or a therapist. But having that social support in that community is so important when you're really stressed out. The last thing is paying attention to how you're thinking. So one of the most researched treatments for stress and anxiety is something called cognitive behavioral therapy, which has to do with your thoughts and your feelings and how that impacts your behavior. So how you think about a situation is going to influence how you feel about it, which is then going to impact your response to the situation itself. So a lot of times when we're feeling stressed, we're feeling overwhelmed, it's very normal and natural for our brain to go to the what ifs about the situation. So what if this thing happens, and you kind of just play out this worst case scenario, and that's going to make you more stressed out because your brain, again, doesn't know the difference between thinking about the worst case scenario happening and the worst case scenario actually happening. So when your brain goes to the what ifs, which it will, because that's normal, shifting to what is. What do I know for a fact? What is true in this moment? It's Tuesday. It's 6 o'clock. It's raining outside. I'm feeling overwhelmed because A, B, and C. And you're just acknowledging where you're at in the moment and acknowledging that your brain is trying to think of worst case scenarios, and you're just trying to shift your focus to what you know for a fact. And that's supposed to hopefully bring your mind to like this calm state where you can think more rationally and not feel even more overwhelmed than you're already feeling. So those are some things that you can do to combat stress. If you learn nothing else in this entire talk, I want you to remember this. Consider memorizing the question, what does it look like if I thought differently about this situation? So what does it look like if I thought differently about this situation? That automatically stops your brain from going down that habitual rabbit hole of overanalyzing and overthinking, and it just shifts your focus to, what would it look like? And just be curious and just see where your mind goes. That's it. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Hopefully you learned something new.